Hot is presented by Botano. The game starts now. Here are your hosts, Brent Wallace, Jason York, and Bobby Ryan.
Welcome to the show, everybody. I'm Brent Wallace alongside Jason York and Bobby Ryan. It's Coming in Hot, presented by Botano.ca. Gentlemen, this is the day after game ones in the playoffs where 4 fan bases are panicking and 4 think they're about to sweep the other team.
Yep. That's about how it goes. But some pretty good hockey to watch last night, though, I thought.
Yeah, unless you're an Edmonton, unless you're an Oilers fan, you're saying, what the hell? You dominated the game for almost the entire first 2 periods, and then oops, 19 seconds left, overtime, not the start you wanted.
Yeah. No. Now you're playing a road.
Maybe Edmonton was hoping
series.
for 3-on-3.
Hey, I thought we were playing 3-on-3. It's a little different come playoff time. A little different.
The only thing, and I didn't mean to spend time on the playoffs, was seeing Joe Pavelski get hit, and I'm hoping he's back. I just really like Joe, and Bobby, I don't know if you know him or not, being on the West Coast, but that was and I don't think the hit was I don't think it was dirty.
I actually haven't seen the hit. I just woke up and saw the report on it this morning and was it's still only 8 o'clock here. So I got some info scrolling through on the bed, but I saw, did they rule him out immediately? Because there wasn't much on it.
He was wobbly. So he needed help
getting
off the ice. So yeah.
I watched the hit.
I watched the hit.
Yeah, I watched it in real time. Watched the replay. It was the perfect storm, man, and you see it. Yeah, here it is right here. He just comes in. It's one of those hits, too. You're engaged with one player. You're coming down. You just don't expect it.
Yeah.
But the thing is, Bobby,
is it dirty?
Pavelski's own stick hits him in his head. Yeah. It comes up and it hits him. So they originally called a 5, and they rescinded it to a 2.
I think, a 5 would be very, very aggressive for me, but I do think it's a penalty. I think it's late and it's a little high, and it might get a conversation today. But outside of that, I don't have a problem with that hit. He's not puck watching here either. He's just engaged with another player, so there's no fault on anybody. You can always say fault to the player that moved the puck, but it's just a hard hockey hit.
The one thing you said, watch here, the puck's releasing one. It's, to me, it's an interference. It's an interference penalty. That's what it is. It's an interference penalty that had a bad result to it. And this is kind of with the NHL. You play 82 games of not that physical compared to the playoffs, and you start. But it's pretty crazy. There's Joe Pavelski, and he's so aware all the time of everything that's going on the ice. So a little bit odd that you see a guy like him getting caught. But hey, it's playoffs. And totally different animal, as you know, Bob and Wally. It's just unfortunate.
It is, yeah. So hope the player's okay.
I do remember watching last night going, man, I covered all the Ottawa series, with I think, except for the first one, their existence. And you miss that feeling of being in the building, that energy of watching playoff hockey live. It's really something special. And I hope maybe next year we can be talking about that with the Ottawa Senators. And so we'll move on to our Ottawa Senator chat, which begins with Pierre Dorion and his season-ending press conference. A couple of notes before we get to DJ Smith. Travis Hamonic, they've left the door open on a 1-year deal. They've talked to Patrick Brown about coming back. Austin Watson, they asked for a 1-year. He wants a 2-year. He played with a broken foot and a bad knee, according to Pierre Dorion. Derek Brassard comes back on a PTO if he's interested. Nick Holden won't be back. Cam Talbot obviously not back. They said they offered him a 1-year and he wanted a 2-year deal, and they were too far apart on the AAV. So no big surprises, I don't think, to any of those names being mentioned. Exceeding expectations: Eric Brannstrom, Jake Sanderson, Travis Hamonic, and Shane Pinto. So, Yorkie, you listened yesterday intently. What did you draw from Pierre Dorion?
Well, number one, it's a very unique situation right now because you have, as we all know, new ownership coming in, and they've come in, they've toured the arena, and it's very unique because in Ottawa, really a president of hockey operations. You've got a board. You've got who's kind of the general manager, and I guess the default president right now, because he doesn't really answer to anyone on top of him as far as the hockey decision goes. So Ottawa's a different animal. It's so when these groups have all come in, they've had meetings with Pierre. He's answered questions, and he's got an opportunity to kind of sell himself to the new ownership groups. And I thought this press conference, again, he's in that mode again of justifying his job position and moving forward. And I don't think he said anything that was incorrect. I think I agreed with a ton of the things he said about all the players and who did well and who didn't do well. And it's such a, we're all just in such a wait and hold pattern here of seeing what's going to happen. And the one take I did get out of it, and a lot of people were talking about this, he didn't say anything negative about DJ. He didn't say anything that wasn't true or not. But when asked about DJ, not that he was non-committal, he's usually a lot more glowing at the end of the season. So for me, again, he's saying something because he doesn't know what new ownership is going to want. So I know why he's doing it. He doesn't really want to make a firm stance because maybe you just don't want to do something that's going to jeopardize your job position. And so he's saying probably the least amount of possible to make sure when the ownership comes in, he's on side with everything they want to do. Well,
Bobby, here's a quote of what he did say. Now, he kind of said the same thing at the press conference, but he went a little bit further on TSN 1200 shortly after the press conference. Alex, do you have the quote available? Here it is. DJ has a contract, which I find very short and to the point, which that line just somehow seems to be an issue for me. Anyway, DJ has a contract. I really respect our players, play hard for him. Do DJ and I see eye to eye on everything? No. But for the most part, he's done a really good job developing these players. So that's the interesting part to me, where he reiterated both times DJ has a contract, which says, well, I have to bring him back, but I'm not sure I want to.
Yeah.
Well, just to finish my thought here before you go here, Bob, that's he's just saying something that everybody knows, and it is an endorsement of the coach, but again, it's just such a unique position that everybody's in right now. So I'm sure there's anxiety, there's nerves, and for all parties concerned, but it's again, I just hope this gets done sooner or later, because I think this upcoming draft is so important of future plays of where this team's going to be in a couple of years.
From a trade standpoint, because they got no draft picks, right?
Yeah, well, exactly.
But you know what's more important to me than, I guess, what Pierre has to say? Obviously, Pierre is the guy that calls the shots and makes the decision on the coach. And I actually agreed with a ton that Pierre said yesterday when it came to evaluating players and the decisions that he made, who to bring back, who to let go, who to walk, whatever it might be. So I actually liked a lot of his press conference, and I actually missed the last few minutes. It didn't come through. But that being said, to me, when Brady comes out and says it, Tim Stützle comes out and says, they love playing for this guy. That I don't think that much can be missed. Because ultimately, if your top players are coming out and saying, we support our coach, we want our coach, and we want our coach back for next year, that speaks volumes when it goes across the dressing room to Pierre or across the hallway to Pierre. So whether or not Pierre wants to move on from DJ because they don't see eye to eye, if you got a lot of your top guys wanting to DJ back, that changes the game on a GM's decision, I think, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And Wally, one more thing here. I know if you listen to Twitter and all the white noise and everything, there's been a lot of negativity about DJ, but I will say this, to play devil's advocate, and what Bob just kind of touched on a little bit, you got to be very careful moving forward, because you look at how the year Stützle's had, the year Giroux had, the year Tkachuk had, the year Sanderson had. you got a lot out of those players. So the main, I say this all the time, the main job of your head coach is to motivate and to get the best out of your players. So if you could argue on one side, did he get the best out of Brady Tkachuk? Did he get the best out of Tim Stützle? Did he get the best out of Giroux? Out of the main core pieces of this team, you got to say the answer is yes, right?
I think
Claude
so.
Giroux has a career high in goals, and he's 35 years old.
So
yeah, I see your point to that, but I'm going to ask you guys as players here, if you have, and I understand they love DJ, that's great, but if you have a chance to maybe go and get a coach who's a proven winner in the National Hockey League, and I can't off the top of my head, Pierre Laviolette comes to mind, but there are other coaches out there right now. Seems to be everybody getting fired who didn't make the playoffs or whatever. Claude Julien's still out there. There's coaches out there. If you have a chance to bring that guy in who you think can get you over the hump, can you not look past the, man, I love playing for DJ Smith?
I guess you can, but I don't know. Familiarity is such a big thing in the NHL, and guys are not open to change, really. Yorkie, when you're in the room and you got your group and your core players, and you have, like, to me, the only thing that needs to change or might be shaken up is the assistants. But the power play and the penalty kill were good this year, so it's like, what do you change there? I just don't see any reason. You've had DJ now, how many years? 5, 4, 6, 4. Sorry. So for 3 years, you've asked them to develop players, and then you ask them this year to take a major step, but the team's decimated by injuries. That's a big part of it, right? You ask them to develop, you ask them not to worry about wins and losses, and then they get a chance to make that next step, but you lose Josh Norris, your goaltending suspect. Granted, the start might be a little more on DJ than we make it out to be at times, but at the same time, he has not had a chance to coach what he's been building in its entirety, not for more than a couple of games. So I, just for me, I'm like, you got to let him see it through. And if it doesn't go well, then you move on after the contract's up. But I just don't see any reason why you don't bring him back. That's a player that knows the guys in the room and actually played for DJ, and he is a hell of a motivator.
Well, that is the job of the head coach in today's NHL, to motivate your players. And everybody, there's always this discussion on systems and tactics, and most teams play pretty similar systems. Hockey is not rocket science. There's no secret system that a coach out there is like, okay, here you go, I've got this magic system that I'm going to put in place here, and all of a sudden everyone's going to start making better decisions on the ice. Because that's what it basically comes down to. What hockey comes down to is split-second decisions the players make when they're presented with two different options on the ice. And, hey, young players don't make the best decisions because you need experience in the league. And that's just something that has nothing to do with systems and tactics and everybody. That it's they're crutch words that people love to use. Structure is another one. I would love to sit down with people and get everyone's idea on what is the definition of structure. It'd be hilarious because
it's amazing.
Because everybody would have a different answer. It's a word that everyone likes to say.
And they'd all be all over the place. And the best, isn't it great when you sit down in a video meeting, a pre-scout, and you go, here's their forecheck. Okay, it's a 1-2-2. We played that last night. Okay, here's what they do in the control breakout. Oh, they have a guy swing in the corner. They have a guy swing high on one stretch. Like, everything is generally the same. There might be this tiny wrinkle that you go to, but across the board, unless you have guys like Connor McDavid, you don't have to worry about running guns. Every team is structured, and it's structured the same way. You just have to make better decisions inside the structure.
And this team loves to, this is a dump and chase. Every player in the NHL, and it starts from junior, you are taught not to turn the puck over at the blue line. So when you have a meeting and the coaches are going over things, they're saying, okay, we want to try and control the zone, get an entry. But if you can't, make a good decision at the blue line via soft chip, put it to space. And people think it's dumping the puck in. It's not. It's putting the puck into a spot on the ice where it's going to give you a greater chance of having success. It's ridiculous when you get people talking. But back to DJ for a minute. I kind of agree with Bob here. Like to where the Senators finished this season with what they had, it's amazing because you basically were running a rookie in your number 2 spot, Tim Stützle on your first spot, and let's not forget a generational player. And I have no qualms about using that word about describing Tim Stützle. We saw him develop this season. And again, to play devil's advocate, he developed under DJ Smith's watch, right? Like you gotta give the coaching staff some credit. Yes, it's the player has the talent to do that, but he had one of the greatest years a young player has had this season. So that didn't happen by accident.
I'd like to get back to structure. Our show is structured as well until you guys start talking.
No, it's not.
It's all over the place.
Who's this
question about
by?
DJ Smith? It's structured by Renfrew Pro Tape.
There you go.
If can you guys still play? We always talk about tuning out a coach, and we look for signs. I don't know that anybody can ever watch a game and go, "Oh, they're not playing for the coach." But as you guys as players, you've gone through coaches. If you don't want to play for that particular coach, or you're tired of his message or whatever, I don't know if you guys have even had that system, but can you still play hard for him? And my point is, players can. This team is known as playing hard every night, for the most part, every shift. Yeah. Is that a sign of they still want to play for the coach, or does it matter? Or is this just a group that plays hard night in, night out for each other? You get my point?
I get your point. And I think there's a certain level of being able to, I don't like the term tune out your coach, but there are nights when you have to. There are nights when a coach is just, he comes in and he's not off, he's not on, he's somewhere in the middle, he's non-committal, whatever. You have to find other ways. And I think that this group, and especially the core guys, and then you factor in a Giroux who came in, they play hard for each other. And there's a source of personal pride, and it's led by Brady. You can't take a night off under Brady, right? He doesn't take nights off. So when your captain's leading the charge every single night, there's a personal pride there. And I don't think the coaching staff matters all the time when you have a guy that will personally drag you into every fight like Brady does. But I've never been part of an organization or a team that quit on the coach. And I've been through a few in Ottawa there for a few years. I was on that carousel. Not once did we ever talk about our coach sucks and we're going to quit on him. I think people gravitate towards that when a team starts to falter and they get down on themselves and they don't look like the same team as they did maybe 5 games ago. And that is it's never the case of going against the coach. I've never experienced it. I don't know if you have, Yorkie.
Well, I'll tell you a couple of funny stories. And one's I don't know if you guys heard the old Scotty Bowman stories. Back when Pittsburgh was winning cups, Barry Smith basically ran all their practices because the guys had had enough of Scotty Bowman. They wouldn't, the players, Mario and the players got together and it was like, nope, you're not coming on the ice anymore. And Scotty, great bench manager, but he didn't go on the ice for practices. They were run by Barry Smith. Crazy. Wow. Like it's, and to Bobby's point, when you got a group, obviously with Mario Lemieux there and the players they had a veteran team. It's the players when they're inside that room together and there's no coaches in there that decide the fate of your team. It really does. And I'll say another story about Barry Trotz, who is arguably one of the best coaches of our time here. When I had Barry in Nashville, we would get together as a group. I think I told this story before. When things weren't going well, we would say, boys, we better start winning because if we don't, Barry's going to get fired. And we had so much respect for Barry that we didn't want to let him down because we knew he had our backs. And that had zero to do with systems, zero to do with structure. It all had to do with a will to win, a will to compete, and knowing the coach is in the battle with you. That's something that I think is probably one of the most important things about today's National Hockey League coach. You need to know that coach has your back and is in it with you. Once the players know the player doesn't care about them as a person and his what he wants is more important, then the coach is done. Then the players, they won't quit on him, but they're not going to respect him, and it's going to be a lot easier for them to go against what he's trying. All of a sudden, you're going to see teams not making, screw him, I'm going to get my points. I'm going to extend my shift, and all the little habits will creep into games. So it's like I said, structure, all this stuff, it is so overrated. It's all about, will this group play for the coach?
You pausing?
Do they?
You got anything?
Well,
I think
I'll tell you, I was reading Ian Mendez's article in The Athletic, and the headline today is, it's time for Pierre Dorion to declare the Senators a playoff team or step aside, which was, I was trying to get into my next question of, he's been at the helm for 6 years, no playoffs. DJ's been at the helm for 4 years, no playoffs. If you're playing on this team, and Bobby, you might be jaded because you played for both Pierre and for DJ, if you will, do you bring them both back? Do you bring one back? And if you only bring one back, who is it?
Well, I think you bring them both back as of now, and then but that is a very valid point by Ian. You bring them back under the guidelines that, hey, enough. We are making the playoffs. We are a contending team, and we're not that we're going on a run, but we are making the playoffs. It's been 6 years of building. It was 3 years of building. Now it's 3 years of developing, and now it's time. You have Thomas Chabot's 27, give or take, now getting there. We're missing windows on guys that we've been waiting for to lead us there. And you have a great young core. You have some solid veterans. We got to shore up the goaltending, but we are a playoff team. So I think and if I'm bringing one back, I'm bringing DJ back because I think that he's been hands-on with these guys and seen them day to day, every single day, and develop them very, very well. I mean, you look at what, Drake Batherson's turned into. You look at Brady and Tim and Chabby to a degree. He's been part of watching those guys at their worst, and now I think it's time for him to make the step to see them at their best. That's just me, but I still bring them both back to start the season for sure.
Yeah, no, my first order of business would be I'm hiring a president of hockey operations to oversee the hockey department. I think that's one thing this organization needs. We all know in the past, this team hasn't spent a lot of money, and that's a position. Well, you go back to when Brian Murray was here. Brian Murray was basically the president of hockey ops, and he was a general manager. Now, if you look at the chain, it's healthy for organizations to have inner debates of what you want to do, and then that the ultimate decision comes with that person. And I think that will be done once the team is bought. Whoever the new owner is, they're going to bring somebody in to fill that void, and everything will run through that person. And that's how teams work. Ottawa's been an outlier. They haven't done things like that for a variety of different reasons. But if you
remember, Yorkie, the league tried to hire a president of hockey ops and couldn't get one.
Yeah,
there were lots of people that were asked, and they turned it down.
Nobody wanted to do it.
The organization was being run. Yeah,
and that's the nice thing about the organization right now. Ottawa's, with the buzz and with the new ownership coming in now, it's now becoming a place. And with the current roster, I think if you polled hockey executives around the NHL, a lot of them would agree that Ottawa probably has the best young, talented base to move forward and to be a legitimate Stanley Cup contender in the near future. So I would think it's a very attractive place now with everything that's going on. So I think that position gets filled. And do I bring both of them back? I don't see the harm of it. I think to start the season, but again, it would depend on who's available, what you want to do. And to be quite honest with you, with what's in place right now with the Ottawa Senators, the team's going to start, and it's going to be business as usual on the ice. And there's not really a lot to do besides figuring out what you want to do with Alex DeBrincat, the goaltending position. That's a big one there for the offseason. So those are two pretty big moves. So I would get that done sooner than later. And I kind of side with Bob on this one as well.
There's an interesting comment yesterday where the media was trying to get Pierre to admit that next year needs to be a playoff year, and he refused, and he said, I've never spoken about the playoffs. If you can find those quotes, we'll have a chat. I think it was to Ian Mendez. Well, listen, if you read Ian's article, which is fantastic today, next year we need to start contending for the playoffs. 2 years from now, we need to be a playoff team. 3 years from now, we need to be a team that contends in the playoffs. And those are words from the general manager. It has to be like that, Dorion said. Maybe I'm too positive, maybe I'm too blunt, but I feel really strongly about those statements. Those statements were made April 9th, 2019, 4 years ago. 4. So yesterday he wanted to say we need to take the team to the next level. Well, there is no next level unless it's the playoffs. I wish he would just get on board and stop pretending the fans don't have any idea what we're talking about. And that's the one issue I have with Pierre. He wants to play coy, and then he says, we signed all these players a few years ago to protect Timmy, but you guys didn't understand it at the time when they brought in good Brannstrom and Braden Coburn. Okay, tell us that then. That's all I want. Just be open and honest and upfront. So
fair.
That's not very quite fair. Always the case. By the way, before we switch, and Bobby, you already brought it up. You're excited about the ad reads. So let's get right to our sponsors, shall we? But Bobby, you get BEI today because Yorkie's had it for the last few. So I just want to give Yorkie a chance to redeem himself because he hasn't been very good lately.
What are you talking? Yesterday was spot on.
Well,
come on, I got an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, you know what? You were in playoff form yesterday.
I was.
This show is always proudly presented by Botano. Go to botano.ca. Download the app. They are the EGR Gaming Company of the Year. Get in on all the action online sportsbook and casino live betting, bet builder, hundreds of options per game, including all kinds of special bets throughout the games and all the NHL games, of course. That's Botano. Go to botano.ca where the game starts now.
I'm BEI. Okay. This show and Ottawa Valley, as always, structured by BEI, Bonnechere Excavating, heavy civil general contractors, always hiring for equipment rentals, aggregate and topsoil sales. Wait a second. We're off. Where's the hiring board?
We changed the board.
All right, you guys can't do that.
You can still say you're hiring.
All right. Well, they're hiring. Throw in a resume. But when planning your next project, consider BEI for your aggregate supply needs. You can find them at BonnechereExcavating.com or give them a shout at 613-432-1120. As always, helping to shape the Ottawa Valley. You get free ice on Fridays and BEI. You guys really threw me there. That was tough. We love you. We love BEI.
That was a 4.
Yeah,
I was a 4. That's okay. It was tough. Threw a little curveball. And thanks to Renfrew Pro Tape for holding our show together. The original hockey tape. It's hand terrible. RenfrewPro.com. Don't forget about Free Tape Fridays. And if you sign up, you're going to get a 10% discount, I believe, online. Don't forget about Instagram. Give them a follow. Tag your teammates. Unlimited entries. And you can share your story on Instagram. Follow at Renfrew Pro. Feel the game.
Okay. Wow, we got through those.
There we go.
Felt a little rough this morning.
Early this morning.
Late.
I'm great live at 2. Live at 2 is my gig.
Well, you didn't want to go live. Okay, let's move on.
Wait a second.
There's a lot of questions.
To pick. Yeah. You never got back to us in the group chat. I said 8 a.m. Monday, Tuesday, and Yorkie got back to us and said works for me, and I never heard from Wally, so I ran with it.
Oh, well, as soon as Yorkie says it, I just let it go. He's the guy that whenever he speaks, that's what happens.
And I'm the guy on no schedule. I can do anytime.
Yeah. So we got to rip this off pretty quick. I got 9 holes coming up.
Yeah, let's go.
Fair enough. Let's go to quickly. Alex, throw up the roster. We are going to avoid talking about anything except the goaltending today, I want to say. Little arts and crafts for you is There are 6 basically RFAs next year for those who aren't aware. That's DeBrincat, Gambrell, Pinto, Gauthier, Bernard Docker, Brannstrom. I expect them all to be back. The issue, as you brought up, Yorkie, is in goal, where they're not sure who's going to be behind Anton Forsberg. Is it going to be Matt Sogard, or are they going to have to find somebody? I think they got to find somebody. I'm just not sure someone's out there if they can't do it unless it's a trade.
Before you get into this, how much cap space does that leave this team? This roster on the ice, how much cap space would that give them?
Well, they're going to be a cap team. Right now, I think they have $14 million left to sign DeBrincat and Pinto, Gambrell, Gauthier, Bernard Docker, and Brannstrom.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that may play a part in Matt Sogard, who's only at, I think, 9 something to be in the lineup. Like Bernard Docker, Brannstrom, Gauthier, Gambrell are all relatively inexpensive. Although Brannstrom is going to require, I think, a couple $1 million to get him signed, but maybe I'm wrong.
And you're going to have some money next season. Sanderson's up, correct? So you're going to have to give a whopping contract to Sanderson next summer that I think you got to be cognitive of, because that's not going to be cheap.
Yeah.
And they talked about, well, Pierre did hint we need to get somebody signed this summer, and I would sound like that's going to be, they're going to try and get Sanderson done.
Yeah. That's priority number one. That is, to me, priority number one. Get him locked in as soon as possible, because his price ain't coming down.
Yeah, as I'm knocking on his door every day right now.
Hello.
Yeah, sign this, please, before you have another bomb of a season.
So at the goaltending one is, they need better goaltending. Where again, Pierre said yes at the beginning of last season, we need to be at .916 save percentage. Well, that would put you at the top 2 in the league. They finished the league at they finished the league 20th in save percentage at .895, I think it was. They need to find goaltending to get them through this, because if there's no goaltending, everybody's talking about why this team struggles.
Yeah. Go ahead, Bob.
No, I agree. I didn't realize Talbot was 17-4-2. I thought it was. I didn't think it was that good.
That might be a typo.
Agree.
That's a typo. I think it's 17-4-2.
That's a
40,
typo.
Okay, I was like, "There's no way." So,
what the hell?
I was like, I didn't see him. Was he on the Vezina board? I didn't see that.
Yeah, anyway, 14.
No. Okay, so you got to find the guy to play before. To me, you got to go. But if you have $14 million in cap space and you're committing 9 right out of the gate to DeBrincat, which it's like they're going to do, I mean, I don't think you have a choice. You need to have a goalie in the 1-1.5 range, and Sogard Sogard fits that bill. So, and he's proven that he can play it, and I think he'd be he's a very respectable backup, don't you think?
I do.
You know, at least in my mind. So I think they're gonna go into the season with this tandem and hope for the best. And it's not a 1A, 1B situation. You commit to Forsberg, provided he plays well, and then let Sogard come in on back-to-backs and nights where the team should win, I guess. You know, you look at those games against Columbus, or you picking a team. I hope Columbus fans aren't listening, but you're looking at a Columbus and you're thinking, here's a night to give our guys some rest, and you throw in Sogard, and I think he can be a very respectable backup, especially at $925.
The goal.
One sec. Cap friendly has him at, they have 16 million in projected cap space at the moment. So but that you still have to put in a $9 million term for Alex DeBrincat.
Just to me, if you're looking at this and you're thinking there's the money to DeBrincat, and you got excuse me, and you have what you have left over, and Pinto, Gambrell, and Gauthier, and you know these other guys eat up a little bit. What do you have left? 1.5 to 2? Are you really getting an upgrade to spend the extra $1 million on a guy that you're already pegging as a backup because you have your starter, your 1A? Do you bring in a guy for $2 million that might get you a little bit more than Sogard can give? I don't know if it's worth it. I don't think I would do it. I think I would ride it out and see how they start, and then you can address it as it goes.
The goaltending position in the NHL, it's not like it used to be. And everybody thinks you got to have this proven guy. Well, Just look what Minnesota's doing this year. We just watched Gustafsson last night go two double overtimes and win a game. Like nobody, you just don't know with goaltenders until you see them go. And there's example, and everybody thought New Jersey was going to be a mess this year, and they went into the scrap heap this summer, and they got Vanacek out there. Toronto's starting the playoffs with not really a legitimate number one. I think we're going to get a clearer picture as the playoffs go, and this is the luxury Ottawa has. They can watch and see how the playoffs play out with a lot of goaltenders that really aren't household names or legitimate starters. Look at Georgiev, or whatever you want to call him. Is it Gurgiev or Georgiev? Look at him in Colorado.
Georgiev.
Like, it's not like the old days when you had Martin Brodeur and Patrick Waugh. It's the goaltending position has really changed. Look at another one. Antti Ranta was a backup in Arizona, and man, I'd like to have him as my starter.
Alex Lyon.
So Alex Lyon. So I just don't think that guy exists. Like, I've heard Gibson's name thrown around, but he hasn't been great the last couple of years. So I like how Sogard played and battled late in that season. I wouldn't mind seeing how he starts off the season. And I think Forsberg's a really good goaltender. He was starting. I thought he was really starting to string some good games together before he got hurt, and with the double leg injury. So it's different now. And the one thing I would spend a little money on those bottom two lines, I think you need a good player to spend some money to go on that third line. If I'm going to save a little bit of money, I'm going to put somebody that can play with Pinto on that third line. I don't think like, I know Riley Gregg's punched in there. To me, he's going to be a good player. I don't know if he's a full-time NHLer yet. He looks like he still needs a lot of things to work on. You look at Joseph. Potentially Joseph's a guy I'd maybe move out and try and upgrade at that position. And that's the thing. And that's the danger. If you go and pay $9 million to DeBrincat, what's that leave you for your third line? What's that leave you? If I wouldn't mind seeing another defenseman come in, another really good defenseman that you can plug in, and you know what you're going to get from this guy. So it's you've already got a lot of money committed to Tkachuk, Stützle, Giroux, Norris. Batherson's on a great contract. Pinto, you're going to have to re-up eventually. So, man, it's if you want to be a team that's going to make some noise in the playoffs and not just qualify for the playoffs, but to make some noise in a couple years, you got to be careful about committing a huge dollar amount to DeBrincat.
Yep.
They need a veteran on that fourth line or in that bottom six. I'd like them to see add a veteran player presence.
Well, Wally, watch
I would love to see him back.
Watch the playoffs. Every single year in the playoffs, it's the third line. It's the third line that is so important in the playoffs. You got to have a presence on your third line if you're going to be a legitimate team in the playoffs. And that's something that maybe they develop it in-house. Maybe one of their young guys grows into one of those roles. But, man, you keep seeing it every year in the playoffs. It's teams that spend money and have some experience on the third line win.
Yeah, it's very true.
I agree. So we'll wait and see what happens in the off-season to come here and what happens with ownership and all that stuff. Before we go, just want to take a look at our playoff board. And if you want to make any changes going into tonight's game, I will allow this with the 4 remaining teams or games that still get underway here. So these are the picks. Oh, I left out Bobby's Dallas pick. I don't know what happened there, but you had you have the Stars in 7. Is there any changes that you guys want to make to tonight's games?
Well, I'd like to change my pick to Carolina now instead of the Islanders. We'll keep it as that.
I'd like to change my Dallas pick if Pavelski's going to be out for a period of time. But outside of that, I think I'm pretty content with. You know what? There is one change I'm going to make. I'm taking Winnipeg in 7.
Wow. Okay.
I teetered on this one a lot. I'm taking Winnipeg in 7.
A lot of people think they have better forward group. that can get it done. And they also have Connor Hellebuyck.
Yeah, exactly. I think I'm gonna take them in 7. I really kind of teetotaled on this one for a while, so that's my change. But that's it.
Okay.
So hold on, Bobby.
Yorkie,
You're switching. You're switching to Winnipeg, Bobby. Is that what you said?
Yeah. Winnipeg over Vegas in 7.
Wow, man. Hope that's not true. I'm like stacked with Vegas players in my hockey pools.
Sorry, man.
Mark Stone coming back, like arrested Mark.
Well, you know
Stone.
what? With my betting odds this year, you got a good chance because I'm switching. You just won the series.
No, I'm keeping status quo with what I got. Might be tough for Edmonton. I don't see Edmonton winning 4 in a row. I think that's going to go a little longer now. But no, I'll stay as is.
All right. We'll see what happens when you guys join us again on Thursday for a little more chat. And we'll get into a little bit more about player moves and who we should put on the 3rd and 4th lines. Bobby, enjoy your golf game. Yorkie, I'll see you at the chiropractor.
See you later, guys.
See you, fellas.
See you guys.
Coming in Hot is brought to you by Botano.ca. Please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel to never miss an episode.